Adults, especially those over 30, how young does 18 seem to you? Story 1. I'm 49 and run a weekly D&D game. I have a couple of kids that are 18 and 21 that play with their mom in the game. They are kids, period. Even the somewhat older kids that play in the game in their mid-20s are still kids to me. I have fun running games for them, but view them nothing more than kids because they are actually younger than my oldest kid. Story 2. I think it's too vague and inaccurate when people just say they're children. They're not. They're in a middle place between childhood and adulthood. That said, at 37, the older I get, the younger they seem, obviously. Story 3. 35 here. 18 is pretty young, but it honestly varies depending on the person. Some people are very mature at 18, and some people still act very immature. It's the cusp between adolescence and adulthood, and the person is starting to learn adult things. But they don't know everything yet, and that's fine. They'll learn it gradually over the next few years. For example, when I was 21, I lived away from my parents for the first time, and my mom had to remind me to call the electric company to put the account in my name. I had no idea that was a thing. I knew that a person had to pay the electricity bill, but I thought it would be automatically registered when you signed a lease. Story 4. I spent several years teaching and mentoring kids 18. I'm nearly 32. You're still just a kid if you're 18. Until you're 21 and very well adjusted and making it on your own, you still seem like a kid to me. I was the same age or older than some students' parents. You can be the smartest 18-year-old on the planet, but to me, you're just a kid, and it's my duty to protect you, not be your pal. Guys in their mid-20s to 30s, 40s, onward trying to date 18, 19-year-olds just give me the creeps. That's a child, sir. Story 5, I'm 56. An 18-year is a child who just got the job of learning how to be an adult. They still need tons of support from their family or another source. The military is very versed in supplying father figures and very aware of how important that role is. Colleges provide a structured environment where young adults can ease into adult responsibilities and experiences while still having room and board taken care of and bills happening in big chunks every once in a while rather than tons of them every month. 18 is hopefully the beginning of a span of a few years of rapid personal growth and the expansion of their worldview and types of experiences. It's exciting and thrilling and fun, but kind of in a way that won't be accessible when they are an experienced adult. The idea that some 18-year-olds have to go out in the world without safety nets is horrifying and sad. Story 6. As someone over 30, 18 feels incredibly young to me now. At 18, you're just stepping into adulthood, often without a clear idea of what lies ahead. It's a time of exploration and making mistakes, but also of immense growth. Looking back, I realize how much I've learned and changed since then. It's fascinating to see the journey from 18 to where I am now. What about the rest of you? How do you perceive 18 now that you're older? Story 7. Young enough that I kind of don't blame them for all the stupid things they do. I may have a different opinion once my 14-year-old reaches that age, and I'm around one every day. But at 45, I see pretty much anyone under 25 as a child. It kind of boggles my mind that all these little kids are out there graduating college. Story 8. 36 here and pretty darn young is my answer. The best way I can describe it is the phrase young adult, which is used differently and typically refers to just teenagers. 18 is just barely beginning your adult life and figuring out a lot of stuff. I am literally double that age and have moments where I go, 36 ain't that old, then actually see an 18-year-old and go, whoa, they're just a kid? I guess I am that old. Story 9. There's this joke that goes something like this. Who's the smartest person in the world? A high school graduate. They know everything. 40 yo myself, and to me the 20-somethings are also kids. It's mostly because I've learned that life experience is an actual thing. I've had 100+ profound moments, experiences more, compared to someone that's 18 yo. I literally have mode XP. Story 10. Just turned 32. To me, 18-year-olds are basically teenagers cosplaying as adults. They're more adult than, say, a 13 or 16-year-old, but they're not fully grown yet and don't generally have a good grasp on the realities of adult life. But when I was an 18-year-old, I definitely felt like I was a full adult. So I understand where they're coming from, thinking they're grown, even if they're not. And I definitely can't blame them for thinking that way, given our country has decided 18 is the legal age of majority. Story 11. Some psychologists say you change more between 18 and 22 than you do between 2 and 6. This is accurate. When I was 18, I thought binge drinking was smart and sleeping from 4 a.m. noon was acceptable. Now I'm in bed by 10 and feel it the next day if I have 4 light beers at a party. I'm only 31, and I already don't understand a lot of youth culture nowadays. 18 is both of age but also very young and new to the world. Story 12. I'm 34 and work in a thankless job with 18-year-olds. and they're entitled lil babies who don't know nothing. I've had a bad day with them. Nah, most of the time they're great, but they don't know shit and think they know it all, and they're somehow both incredibly audacious but also wildly anxious. Story 13. I'm 44. 18 is a baby to me. My oldest child is 18, and I look at him constantly and think of how I thought the world worked at 18, and my values and morals at 18, and my behavior at 18, and how adult I felt, but everyone around me acted like I was still a kid. And now I realize I was. I even bought him a shirt for his 18th birthday that says the fact that I'm legally an adult is hilarious. Story 1443. They're children, but not little children that should need coddled. They don't know what they don't know. Neither did I. But they'll be okay. They'll learn. They're about to embark on an adventure of adulthood. I wonder if 70-year-olds feel the same way about my age group. Probably something like that, LOA. Story 15. I remember being in high school and some of my classmates complaining about parents saying, wait till you get in the real world. We all thought we understood what the real world was. Turns out we didn't. A few years ago, I happened to be driving by my old high school when school got out, and I thought of the students as kids. The law might say you are an adult at 18, but you're not. You're still a kid. Story 1618 is a baby adult. They know nothing while thinking they know everything. I have been there, done that, and earned some wisdom along the way. I am 38 now. It takes about 10 more years past 18 to go from baby adult to full-fledged adult. Those 10 years, you learn a heck of a lot, like how to manage yourself, life, a job, finances, a house, potentially a relationship, and even kids. A lot is learned in 10 years that you don't get to learn until you hit the baby adult stage. It is no different than a baby, though. You have to walk before you run, or learn how to save money and budget before you can buy a house or rent a place. You have to have crummy jobs to get the good jobs, things of that nature. Not everyone takes the same path. Some skip parts, but the time it takes to gain wisdom is about the same. You have to get out and let life knock some sense into you. And you can only acquire that with time and getting out from under your parents. Story 1718. 20 is baby adult to me. I expect them to be capable like any adult I come across, but I'm more patient with them. Conversing with them ranges from feeling like peers to worrying about their well-being. I never say anything, though. Most people need to touch the stove to really know it's hot. You go make that mistake, young, and you don't need some boring hag like me to tell you not to do it. Story 18. Unexperienced adults I refuse to see treat my 18-year-old coworkers as kids. Treat them like kids. They'll act as such. Uphold them to what your expectations of what an adult is, and they'll start following through. I despised being seen as a kid when I was 18. I'm glad the older folks treats me like a grown-ass woman despite the baby face. Story 19. I think it's not as much about being intelligent or anything like that. It's more about experiencing having to carry a burden on your shoulders. The bill in your name, especially the ones with huge debt behind them, being responsible for a kid, making life-altering decisions, and having to live with the consequences. It also seems like your life becomes more narrow, if that makes sense. People rely on you. You can't just live somewhere else or follow all of your fun hobbies. Seeing how carefree most 18-year-olds are, how idealistic but also shielded and naive they are, makes you realize how long and hard the road has been to get here. 35 BTW with 2 young kids. Story 20 depends how a person acts. Age as an exact number is not that important, TBH. It's more important what kind of person they are. 32 here. I don't class 18 years olds as kids like some other people in the comments. They are an individual in their own right, and there is nothing childish in the struggles they have. I'd never consider whether someone is worth listening to depending on their age alone. Story 21. Turning 29 soon. It's hard to not view an 18-year-old as still a kid. I know that age is when you get more responsibilities, but from the ones I've been around, they all still seem very young and still have a lot to learn. At my age, I still think I have a lot to learn, so that puts it into perspective how little I really knew in 18, even though it's technically the start of adulthood. Story 22. As a 30-yo, I agree with everyone in this chat that 18 is essentially a child. I wish I could go back in time and take my own advice instead of thinking it was acceptable to date a 28-yo. It was not normal in any way, and he was a sexual predator. The older I get, the more fucked up it all looks. Disgusting to imagine a 30-yo pursuing a child. Story 23. I'm 31. They're kids. Legally an adult to make choices, but still a kid to be guided and protected. I was in line at a gas station the other day and some dude in front of me says, "Look what just walked in. Looks pretty good." And pointed to 2 girls. Probably about 18, 19, maybe 16, 17. You don't know, just that they're young. I looked and just said, "Oh yeah, too young for me though." Dude just said, "Man, pretty young ladies, but can't believe dudes my age and older would try to get with them. They're just at a whole different development stage and point in life. 18. Adult light. Story 24. I am 45. I 100% thought I was an adult and knew almost everything at 18. The brain doesn't even stop developing until 25. 18 is still a kiddo in my mind. When older people, 25 plus, date 18-year-olds, I think they're creepy AF. I have no doubt I could have a nice conversation with an 18-year-old, but we would have almost nothing in common. I am totally for 18-year-olds voting, buying lottery tickets and tobacco, but they're still a cute little fetus. Story 25. As a 29-year-old, 18 seems a whole lifetime ago. I was a whole other person. I would never say this to an 18-year-old, but they are like a child still to me. So to have all this responsibility immediately because of the age change can be wild to me, and I wish more parents were supportive in that transition. Your brain isn't even fully matured till mid-20s. I could feel that. I feel way more adult than 5 years ago. If it helps with perspective, I'm a woman. If we are talking dating-wise, I personally would never consider speaking to anyone younger than like 25. Sure, it's legal, but in my honest opinion, it's kind of predatory and icky. Story 26, I am in my early 30s, and I basically see 18-year-olds as high schoolers. Annoying, for the most part. I went back to college in my mid-20s and could really see the students fresh out of high school are usually mentally still there. Acted very young, which is why I could never understand a grown adult being comfortable dating a 18, 19, 20-year-old. Story 27. When I was 18, I felt like I was an adult. Now that I'm 41, I can see 18-year-olds don't know anything about real life. They are absolutely clueless for the most part. Enjoy your youth, kids. Don't do drugs, alcohol, or spend too much time on your phones. Also, mature fast, have children, be a penny pincher, and retire early. Story 28. Just turned 42. 18 is very young. I generally think of people as old as 25 or so to still be kids. Depends on the person, of course, but until you hit the mid-20s, most people have minimal real-life experience or time spent reflecting on their own past. That doesn't mean that their perspectives are invalid, but I think that having proper responsibility and also having time pass so that you can reflect on your past experiences is what helps a person to mature. Story 29. I'm 36. 18 seems like a young adult to me. To be clear, the life I have lived since 18 feels like lifetimes. It's hard to put into words how much experience and growth I have experienced since that age. A lot. That said, at 18, you're old enough to get into trouble. Old enough to get out in the world and start making stupid mistakes and suffering the consequences from them. Adult, but baby adult. Also, every 18-year-old is different. Some have lived a lot more life than I had by 18. Some have lived a lot less. Story 30. I had a Facebook reminder today. It was a photo from this day. 18 years ago, I was doing a study abroad through my university. So I've already thought a bit today about how much has happened to me in those 18 years. I feel like I've lived 3 distinct trajectories already. I'm 38. An 18-year-old does seem young to me, yes. It's mind-blowing to me that they could be my child, preparing for their own university experience. I do not have children, but I teach adolescents, and I've had the privilege to get to know quite a lot of them. Around graduation time, they are especially interesting to talk to. I'm just starting to become aware myself of the passing of time, of aging. So to see someone that's 18, for me, it's a sort of half smile meant to express that while I wouldn't necessarily want to relive the years, I hope they enjoy the ride and a very earnest Godspeed and good luck. Story 31. Definitely still kids, as they should be. It makes me sad to see an 18-year-old who is already adult-like because that maturity is almost always the result of trauma. Their brains are not fully developed until mid-20s. I feel like there needs to be a term for these kids who are no longer minors, but still developmentally not adults. Story 32. Absolute baby. And wow, did I have some terrible life experiences before 18. You still just can't know what you don't know, whether it's jobs, significant others, whatever. That said, most people also will never be more optimistic in their lives because all options are still open. Story 33. My landlord's son is like 19 and I'm 34. But he's a blast to hang out with because we have all the same hobbies, electric guitar and Muay Thai. It's like having a kid brother who's about to start college the same place I went. Long story short, 18 and 19 feel like a lifetime away. You almost forget what it's like to have that doe-eyed enthusiasm about the world. By all means, I've achieved my dreams of getting a job in the field I want, making good money, and really enjoying my hobbies. But having it is different than the youthful optimism of believing there's still a big, beautiful future ahead of you. Godspeed, lil bro. Story 3436 here. I group anyone between 16 and 25 or so into the kid category, right above the 0-15 child category. I trust and somewhat expect kids to be able to think critically and make intelligent decisions, but I'm not going to be surprised at dumb choices or oversights, and I won't hold it against them for needing a little extra support every now and again. I'm also fully aware that I'm coming up on the age where that the approximate reverse of that perspective is likely to be equally valid, that they'll see me as reasonably capable but also likely to be out of touch and undependable. Story 35, technically an adult, the mentality of an immature high school student, and nearly zero life experience as far as taking care of yourself as an adult and surviving in the world goes. But you can have some intellectual conversations about abstract subjects with them. An 18-year-old tends to be very idealistic. Story 36. I'm 31. 18 is literally a child. I was in 12th grade in high school living at home when I was 18. I'd been working and making money for just 1 year of my life, and legally only allowed to work for 2 years. I was not allowed to do certain things, be out past a certain time, buy certain things, be in certain places, ingest certain things, etc. because I was literally a child. Story 37 here. I have 4 boys over 18, 1 more soon to be. Before someone starts doing hella math, I host exchange students. Seeing them hit 18 makes me feel old AF, but it's also pretty awesome. On one hand, it sucks because it does make me feel old, but it's such an amazing experience that I'm grateful that they're in my life. Story 38. I'm 34 and 18 feels like a child to me. I know that's the age you legally become an adult, and you definitely feel like one when it happens, but you have so much growing, learning, and self-discovery left. Your brain won't be done until you're 25. Other things will take even longer. I don't think there's shame in being young, though. It's a saying that's parroted often, but with good reason. You're only young once. Don't rush to be considered an adult. Trust me, the back pain ain't worth it. Story 39. I know I'm not the target audience here. I'm 19, technically an adult, but I feel almost no different than I did in high school. A little more independent because I have a year of living in a different city for college under my belt. But still, I don't feel like an adult in the same way that my parents or my older brothers are adults. Even this past year at college, I would drive home every so often for the weekend, little under 2 HR drive, because I wanted to see my family. I'd get lunch with my mom, go to the gym with my dad, spend time with my dogs, then leave on Sunday before classes on Monday. A few people I knew thought it was weird of me to do that, but I don't care. I know for a fact they also weren't as mature and independent as they thought they were.